Welcome to 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. Our goal is to showcase the stories of athletes and the community that supports them by being authentic about their journey. Here's your host, Jacoby Gillum.
Yo, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jacoby Gillum. This episode, we have Gregory Petty, pro volleyball player. And, the question is, how do you bounce back from adversity, right? How do you overcome obstacles that most people will say you're finished, you're done, give it up, right? How do you bounce back from someone telling you have a large heart or a dislocated knee? How do you keep coming back and saying my story is not finished? And Gregory Petty's journey embodies that, that never give up mentality. So hopefully through his story and his journey, it inspires you to keep going through your story. To say that you have more to be written. So hope you get inspired. Hope you listen to the journey, and let's get to it. Well, Greg, the question I start with everyone comes on is, when you're younger as an athlete, what was like your biggest dream or goal you wanted to achieve?
So I actually played like basketball and football, as I'm sure you did when you were younger too. And like football was, the first one for sure. Like I was thinking, NFL wide receiver or something like that. And then I ended up getting to high school. That didn't really work out just because, my high school, we ran options and didn't really pass the ball much. So I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to go well. And then I was doing basketball as well. I was actually pretty good at that, playing a little bit AAU, but unfortunately I had a coach that kind of drove me away from that one. I didn't really enjoy it as much as I did when I was, growing up and playing. And that was the next dream, was obviously like NBA, like, all right, sweet. Like I would have loved to have gone to Duke. Like that was the thing I was thinking about for that. Like, cause my grandparents actually lived in North Carolina. So like Duke, Coach K, it was like, I was like thinking like, oh yeah, like this could be amazing. And then, just kind of lost the drive for that, and then ended up just sticking with volleyball. And my brother kind of got me into that. And then I was like, we'll see what happens with this, and just kind of went on from there.
When you have these dreams, saying, NBA, NFL, how did you think, I'm going to make this happen when you were kind of thinking about that?
For the football stuff, I had no idea. Like I think I finally stopped playing football, I think when I was like 15 or 16. So, I was, I didn't really understand all the hard work and stuff that goes into it. And then basketball was the one that I got a little bit better at. And, I actually started doing a lot more like weight training actually through basketball. I had a guy who was my AAU coach that he was a personal trainer as well. He was actually an ex-NFL, like third string guy, but like was working out with him all the time, did a lot of injury prevention stuff. So thankfully I didn't have too many major injuries when I was younger. I had one, a few years ago now, but, so that was kind of the next process, was, getting into that mindset and like getting my body ready, because that's the biggest thing, is the biggest jump is, the physicality of people. And I was this, skinny little kid. Like I was tall, I was always tall, but I was just, this little like stick basically. And I got pushed around a lot, especially when I was playing football and basketball. And then finally I started to, put some meat on my bones. And that's when it kind of started to be like, okay, like this could be something, maybe we'll see what happens.
And where'd you grow up?
Outside of Chicago, Downers Grove, Illinois was like where I grew up, like Naperville area, if people know where that's at, never. So suburbs of Chicago.
So I know like volleyball is one of those sports where you kind of like have to really kind of get in the culture, kind of get in the mix. So it was more like your brother, you saw your brother playing, like, I want to get this shot.
Yeah. So I think my first time actually really playing volleyball was probably when I was 15. I played, middle school, as, everybody that's an athlete in middle school does every single sport they can, because they want to do everything. And then I started doing travel, like, finally, I think it was like 15 after my freshman year of high school. I went for the summer just to try out for a team, and I got invited at Sports Performance, was the club out of Aurora. And, I got invited to go to the national team that was going to, junior nationals that we had. I ended up going. And then after that, I just kept going on from there, because my brother had actually played at Sports Performance before. He was on the 18s team at the time when he was a senior in high school. Then after that, I just kind of continued to play and started playing travel and everything else. So that was, 15, 16 was around the time that I really was like, oh, okay, like this is something I could probably do. So we were actually the same position at first. Well, we kind of had the same like path, which was kind of funny. We both played middle at first. And then we both transitioned to outside hitter, which is what, I play now, which is just kind of funny. We just kind of naturally did it as we got better, as a more all around player and whatever else. And it just kind of happened naturally. So
it's almost kind of like a kind of bond too. It's like a family a little bit.
Yeah, no, we always had that, like competitiveness. It was more so when we were younger, as football for sure was the main thing. And then obviously as it got, on farther, then it became the volleyball thing. And actually we went to the same university for volleyball and we played together for 2 years. So that was actually a really cool experience. You don't get to play often with your brother, especially on the same university and whatever else. And as a freshman, I actually ended up starting. I was, lucky enough that I was in that position to be able to do so. So I started along with him, and we actually had I think it was the first time that our team had gotten back to the Final Four for 10 years or something like that. Was my freshman year. And, my brother was a big part of that. So it was a really cool experience, especially, playing together in that.
So when it came to choosing college, was him being there like a big, I guess, reason for you choosing what it was Lewis and Clark, correct?
No, just Lewis University outside of him. Yeah. But no, it was, it definitely kind of, pulled me a little bit more. But the big thing for me was, not many people know also about men's volleyball for like NCAA is D1 and D2 are combined. Because there's not, too many. I think there's like 70 D1 and D2 programs. So Lewis is technically D2 for everything except for men's volleyball. So we played in the same conferences like Ohio State and stuff like that. So the big thing for me actually was I was looking for a school to do like engineering or physics or something along those lines. And a lot of the schools that had shown some interest in me didn't have them. And thankfully, Lewis actually had a really good science program. And I ended up, talking with the professors, worked out really well. And then the coach also, was going to stay there for forever because he's still there. Actually, he runs the men's program and his wife is actually the coach of the women's program. And they're both very successful. And so they've kind of got their own little dynasty going on. So really everything just kind of clicked into the right spots. So it was just a really good fit in general, like volleyball wise and school wise.
A definition of student athlete right there.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm actually still doing school right now. I'm doing my master's online actually, while I'm still playing over here. So still kind of studying a little bit.
What's your master's going to be focused on?
My master's is in data science with a concentration in computer science. So that's, I got the math and science stuff is etched into my brain for sure. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So while you're at Lewis, at what point did it become like, I want to go pro? I really kind of figured it out a lot more, actually, probably my freshman year. I thought it was always a possibility because I had heard about some guys going overseas and everything else, because obviously the US doesn't really have, a pro indoor league. We have the AVP for outdoor and beach and stuff, but I found out from, other guys that like, hey, yeah, there's stuff overseas and whatever else. And then I got exposed to it a little bit because I actually got some of the junior and youth national team stuff when I was, I think, freshman and sophomore in college. So, I got exposed to that stuff a little bit more. And that was probably around the time that I figured it out. And like my brother actually played for a year or two overseas as well. So, another thing, kind of the little brother following in the older brother's footsteps a little bit on it. But, it just kind of became a thing that I didn't really think about too much. And then once I finally got to my senior year, it was like, hey, I want to do this, let's see what happens. And that was I had an inkling that I could do it, but yeah, it was really senior year that I was like, all right, like, let's do this. Let's make it happen. So during this whole time, from high school to college, how was your mindset? What was it more of like, I guess, like what drove you to keep wanting to get better or keep wanting to chase this dream?
Honestly, it kind of goes back to that basketball coach and some other people, coaches or like people that I met when I was younger. And it's like, oh, like, what are you actually going to do with that sport? Or like, how is this going to go? So it's kind of like almost like, proving people wrong. Like I've always had that kind of aggressive mentality, I guess, in that aspect. Like I'm really self-driven and self-motivated, which is, it's a really, really good thing for me. And I will be honest, that got instilled into me by my parents, which is a great thing. I will be forever grateful for them for that one. And, I've always, even like when I'm home now in the summer, like, even if I don't play as much, like I'm going to the gym every single day, lifting, trying to better myself in some way to help me, just kind of keep moving on and avoid injuries. Also, that's the other thing too. But yeah, just kind of that mindset of, prove other people wrong and, prove to myself also that like, hey, this is where I belong to be.
So you're in the pro journey, right? So when you signed up for, we did the interview, the slot, you had, I asked the question is like, if you can write a name for your story, what would you say? And you said, I want to make sure I may butcher this, but it was like when it almost came to an end.
Yeah. So, there were a few times actually I had some really weird, like medical scare when I was like 15. There was a lot of, around the time when I was 15 in high school, there was a lot of, or I think there was like 3 or 4 kids in Illinois actually that were football players that had, random heart issues and passed out and died like on the football field and training for the summer. And there was a huge deal in Illinois at that time for getting EKGs for high school kids and everything else. So, my high school actually was one of the schools that was providing them for all the athletes and even just, normal kids, whatever else that wanted to do it. So I ended up doing it, and it was like a freak thing that like something popped up on it. And like immediately, like, 15-year-old kid, like something pops up on a heart scan. It's like what am I going to do? Like, can I still play sports? Cause like, sports were a big part of my life at that time because I was playing everything I could. And thankfully, turned out to be nothing too big. Like I actually have an enlarged right ventricle. So basically it just means that like, the right side of my heart is a little bit larger and thicker than it's supposed to be. But thankfully the heart is like thick enough to support it. So it's not a big deal at all, actually. So that was a big thing that I was like, when I was younger, it's like, holy crap, like what's going to go on? And then, the second time was, it almost kind of came to a halt, like I think it was 4 years ago now when I had, a really bad injury. First match when I was in France, freak accident, landed on one leg, in a decent situation, but I've landed, in more awkward spots before. And I ended up dislocating my leg at the knee. So I tore my ACL and MCL and meniscus all at once. And, the doctor of the team actually, but this was before I got the MRI, he was almost like saying that, like, he's like, look, I don't know how bad this is going to be, but he was basically telling me that he would be surprised if I didn't tear everything just because of how, serious it looked and everything. So that was another thing. It's like, holy crap. Like I was a little bit freaked out at first. Like, thankfully, I was a bit older. I was like 23 or 22 when it happened or something like that. So I'm like, this is something that it's going to be serious no matter what. And, I had the same thing as you were saying, you had the ACL. So it's like, the ACL was the major one, thankfully. And it was only the ACL because they thought it might be PCL and LCL and, all the other CLs that are in there. So thankfully it was just, that was the main thing. I ended up going back to the US to get everything done just because, it was easier to be with family and whatever else. It was great though, because the team supported me big time with whatever I wanted to do. They helped set everything up. So it was, actually a really good situation with that. And then I think I was actually cleared as you were about 6 months afterwards. So I was actually good to go pretty much, but I knew, it was going to be another 3 months at least until I really got back to where I was. So, and, the first thing I got for like questions from a lot of people was like, are you still going to play? Like, what's the plan? And like, as soon as I found out, exactly what happened. And then like probably about a week afterwards, I like really kind of like sat down, thought to myself, like, well, what am I going to do now? And, I thought about it. I'm like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm just going to, push back and get back to where I was, because it was really unfortunate because like in my career, like I was just like going up like this, and it was like a really steep, incline that I was just moving up at. And then all of a sudden I just like completely stopped with the injury. So I'm just like, no, I'm going to keep going, get back to where I want to be.
Man, I felt that in my knee when you said it, because I know like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're in limbo a little bit, because you're like what's next?
Yeah.
You know? So I know from like my journey with the ACL, like there were days that I was really pumped to get back, and there was those days when it was rough. It was harder than others. So on those days when it was harder than others, how did you just keep that vision in mind that I want to get back? Or like what helped you? Was it self-motivation, or what was?
I mean, it was self-motivation, but it was also, I had a lot of friends and family that, wanted to see me come back. Like, honestly, my manager, the Italian lady, Chiara Castagnetti, she's a friend of mine also, but she's been a big manager for me, and she's been awesome with so many things. And she was one of the people who, like, I think probably every, like, once a month, at least she would send me this long message of like, hey, I can't wait to see you back on the court and all this stuff. Like, she was always checking in. There was no doubt in her mind. And that was another one that helped out for sure. Obviously, my brother, he was held there, pushing me along too. And I think the biggest also, my physio that I was doing my rehab stuff with in the US, his name is Greg Heaton, and he was awesome with everything that I was doing. And he was another one that he was actually really happy to have me, because, with a lot of, he worked for Athletico, I think it was. And, with a lot of people that go into those places, like workers' comp things and whatever else. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, for pro athlete, like, this is awesome. Like, I love having you in here because you do all the stuff that you want to do. Like, you push yourself. Like, I love that. And like, even he saw that some days, like, I was having a rough time. Cause I mean, I don't know if you had this, but for me, did you have the patella graft when you did the ACL as well? Or
patella tendon.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing, because like when we, for volleyball approach, like it's a big plant on the left leg, and, cause your left leg's in front, and that was the leg that I did it to. And, I think it was like 4 months when I started to try and do like approach jumps and everything else. And like right around 4 months, for like a week, I was in so much pain trying to do that jump, because, the patella was still healing and like getting back. And it was just like, but, as I said, my physio that was there with me, Greg, he was, helping me out. He modified some things, whatever else. He did whatever he could to help out. And like, when I went home, then, I was staying with my parents at the time because it was just easier. Everyone was really like, hey, take your time. We know you're going to get back. Just don't hurt yourself, but push yourself. It's one of those things where it's like that middle ground. You have to like push yourself, but you don't want to go too far, because then you might hurt yourself again. So then like you can't do anything, and it's like, crap. But yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of self motivation for sure. But I mean, I had so much support around me, like friends and family, even like other volleyball players that I knew. Like a bunch of girls that I know that are playing overseas, and guys and former teammates, everybody would, check in on me every once in a while because they wanted to see that I was doing well. So
I was left leg too. And I remember like the worst drill was like the towel and like sliding your knee up and kind of get that early bend.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I know. So many stability things and everything else. And yeah, it was, I mean, it works. It works now, obviously. It worked, but it's just at the time.
9 months, you were back overseas, ready to go? Or is it more, a little bit more?
It was a little bit longer. So I actually, I had gotten an offer from a team in Paris that year after, but it was kind of a whole process. Like, I didn't feel like I was ready. So I kind of told them at first, like, hey, I don't think I'm ready. Like, I don't think I'm where I want to be. And I think I would kind of, let them down if I had actually gone right away. But then they actually ended up kind of changing some things around, because they had a guy originally who got injured over the summer. So they knew that I was still recovering, and they wanted somebody to help them, go back up to Pro A though, because they were dropped in on to Pro B that year. And so I talked to the coach, and he said, hey, we're not worried about the first half of the season. So it'll still give you another like 2-3 months to really like, train and rehab and get back to where you want to be. We want you for the second half. And, then I was like, okay, if that's what you guys want, like, that's perfect for me, because I was talking with the assistant national team coach at the time. And I was planning on going to California then for a couple months to train until I, got a contract. But then since, this one, with Paris, it set up pretty much perfectly, and I didn't have to worry about looking for a team then after. So it was a really good situation that just like kind of fell into my lap. thankfully.
And in Paris too, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like you can't complain about being in Paris. So, and I mean, we had a really successful season. And the great thing too, honestly, there, when I went there, the physio that I had there was, you know, the first 2 months that I was there, he was in the weight room with me, training with me, and like doing stuff with me, and not just like telling me what to do. Like he was doing it with me. It's like, hey, like we're going to push this and we're going to get you back. So it was a really good thing.
So recently, you know, you own fall basketball here in the NBA right now, but Klay Thompson just came back from his injury, right?
Yeah.
You know, watch the video, like how, you know, like his reaction, like the crowd reaction, the team's reaction when he made, you know, that game back. But for you, what was that first match back like, or that moment of just, you know, lacing your shoes up again, you know, like what was that?
Well, so it was a really weird thing for me, because the other part of my whole thing with my injury was that actually the year before, like the year of my injury, I was playing in a team called Rennes from Rennes, France. And we were actually playing against Paris in the first match of the season. So, and it was at Paris. So basically the gym that I got injured in was now my training gym.
Ooh.
So it was kind of like the first day I walk in, I'm like, okay, this is exactly where I got injured. Like, this is exactly what happened. So it's kind of like a holy crap moment. Like, it's like, oh geez, like take a second and go. But I mean, once I started training, and like the great thing also about being there was that all the guys, I think 2 or 3 of the guys actually had done something to their knee as well before. So like they all understood, they knew exactly where I was coming from. And like, it just, as I said, it couldn't have been a more perfect situation. But like, man, yeah, getting back into the gym and like really kind of lacing it up and getting going and like feeling like myself again. I think it was probably about, I want to say it was probably about 10 months after the injury, because I got actually October 15th was the date that I got injured, because I still remember these. I'm sure you probably remember some of them too, but
October 23rd. Yeah.
So October 15th was my injury. And then actually I got surgery on November, I think it was 21st or something like that. It was like 3 days before Thanksgiving, which is the weird thing, because then Thanksgiving for me was, you know, a strange one, but that's okay. But then, you know, I think it was probably about December, like the year after that I got injured, was when I was like really like back, like, oh, hey, like I'm ready to go. And that was a really nice feeling, because then, you know, I didn't really play much before. I played, you know, sporadically. The coach kind of put me in just to, you know, get me going and whatever else, because it was, you know, it was part of the deal that we talked about. Like we knew it was going to happen. And I think it was about December when I felt like good volleyball wise and physically. So like, you know, the main thing was the volleyball wise, because I wasn't really able to play much. But once I got back into it around December, and it was just like, man, it was such a nice feeling to be back, to like just be like, hey, I don't have to worry about anything. Like I don't have this little head or like little voice in the back of my head, like, hey, be careful on this. Like I just went, and like, it just became, you know, natural again. And it wasn't something like I wasn't thinking about like, hey, you just got injured, like you got to be careful. Like it was just go.
They're like back to who Greg was.
Yeah, exactly. And it was such a nice thing, because then I'm like going, I remember one of the matches I was going into, and I like, there was a kind of an awkward situation where I was going to attack a ball, but like didn't think twice, just went and go. And then I landed and got the kill. And I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. I like how this feels again. So
outside of like, you know, the injury comeback, right? What were your goals that you're either we're trying to aim back then, or trying to beat now?
I mean, obviously, I think the number one thing that's a big goal still kind of, but it's starting to kind of get a little bit smaller now, just because as I'm getting older, is Olympic team. I mean, that's a thing that obviously I'm still going to shoot for no matter what, you know, because that's who doesn't want to have, you know, the 3 letters of USA that's from or like, you know, any country, who doesn't want to have their, you know, represent their country doing a sport that they love. So that's a big one for sure. I'd have to say, though, probably the top one for me right now is probably just to keep improving and get into one of the top like 3 or 4 leagues in the world for volleyball. You know, the top 3, I guess I would probably say, are like Italy, Poland, and Russia are the top 3. And then like France is also another good one that's like just not even like below them, but, you know, it's just like right there too. that's one of the goals. And it's like, I just want to get there too. Cause the competition, like I love competing, man. Like I love like, hey, this guy on the other side of the net is supposed to be better than me, but like, I'm going to prove that I'm better than him. And it's, just one of those things. So that's for sure a big goal of mine, I'd say.
Out your drive, man.
Yeah. That's like, who's the guy I got to, line up against and go. And it's just, I don't know. It's just always kind of how I thought about stuff. And like, I always just want to be, because I always think about it too. It's like, if I'm better than the person that's in front of me, then my team's going to be successful. That's how I kind of look at it too.
If if you're talking to either the youth, Greg, or maybe you're an athlete, back home that's like you, right? They have a big dream and ambition. What advice would you give them, just about anything really?
I think the one thing for me, obviously, that it's like kind of but it's kind of like a cliche one, I guess, but it's like never give up. I mean, you really have to push yourself. I mean, you'll have people that'll help you, or, some people might not help you along the way. You may have, good coaches or bad coaches, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what you do and what you do to better yourself. And I think one of the things I wish I actually took a little bit more seriously for sure when I was younger was weights and training and, my diet. Everybody in college, I'm sure, as like you don't eat, you just eat whatever. You're like, oh yeah, I'm a college athlete. Like I can just eat whatever, bag of Skittles here for lunch, all this stuff. So, cause I think, when I graduated college, I was still pretty skinny and whatever else. And then, my first year overseas, I was in Finland. I kind of, started taking, weightlifting and my diet a little bit, more serious. And then I think if I remember it, I put on like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. I started jumping higher and like everything else. And like, it was just so much better. And I think that's, just those little things that you don't really think about, but end up, making such a big difference for you later on.
So in terms of that, was it more of you got more coaching on it, or was it more kind of just searching the internet and kind of just curious about, what should I be feeling my body, or how did that turn out?
A little bit of both. I definitely got better at cooking because you kind of have to. It's overseas, you're on your own. No, mom and dad aren't there or whatever else. But I also had a few friends or whatever else that I'd reach out to who did some nutritionist stuff and whatever else. But, it's a lot of, chicken, veggies, fish, all that stuff. I generally try to eat pretty well anyways. But like one of the things I've cut out a lot now is sugar. I don't really have much sugar, unless it's like, natural sugar from fruits and stuff like that. But, like chocolate or gummy bears or whatever else, like I don't really have as much anymore, because the other thing too now is like, since I kind of cut that out, if I have like too much of it at once, I like feel sick. So my body's like kind of trained now, like, hey, if you start to feel bad, it's too much. So.
Dang. See, I'll eat enough for you then, man, because I'm heavy on gummy bears and the hot Cheetos, man.
See, I love gummy bears too. That's the only problem. It's like, it's so hard not to, but yeah, I'm trying.
Hey, I'll eat them for you, so don't worry. I got you.
I appreciate it.
I'll be a team player. I guess as we look into, quick question for you, so I look into the next year, this new year. Mm-hmm. All right. So what's next for you guys? As 2022 now just began. So what's next for you?
Right now, still just making on the grind pretty much. Nothing too much is changing. Obviously, we have the Challenge Cup thing as a team here, which is a really big thing for, us as a team and, as players as well, because it's a good thing for exposure. And we actually have the next match for that on Wednesday. So that's going to be a pretty key one for us. And we lost in 4 sets the other day. So basically we have to win at home now in 3 or 4, and then we'll have like a golden set, which, 1 set to 15 to see who moves on. And then we'd be in the quarterfinals of Challenge Cup, which would be big. And then we just have the normal matches, whatever else. But, the main thing for me personally is like, trying to stay healthy, still avoiding the contact, because I don't really want to get sick with it. Although I think I may have already had it in Germany a while ago. I don't even know for sure, because, it was kind of before the whole, real pandemic kind of started. But but, obviously it's, stay strong, healthy, keep my studies going as well. That's the other thing too for me. But I wouldn't say too much has changed right now. I'm not really a big person on like resolutions and stuff. I kind of, just go with the flow a little bit, but like, cause things change all the time. And, I'm just trying to make sure all my family and everything's safe too. And, everyone in my family is good. So that's another positive. So, just trying to stay on that path.
Good deal, man. Good deal. And then I guess the last question for you. Social media, anything, where you at? People can go follow you on more about your journey. I have my Instagram.
It's Gregory Petty 9, or it might be Gregory _Petty 9. I think I don't remember, but I'm pretty easy to find on there. And that's pretty much the main one that I post on. I probably should do a little bit more social media stuff and post a bit more, but I post every once in a while on there, and I definitely appreciate the follow if anybody's interested too, and if they want to hear a little bit more. My DMs are open on there too, so I can answer any questions.
And I realize that too, man. It's like volleyball athletes aren't tweeting. Like I do these graphics, that it's like, it's like the athlete pictures and their tweets. I'm like, if anybody plays volleyball, it's tweeting. Like, hey.
Yeah, I had a Twitter, I think, when I was in college for maybe a couple of months, and I'm just like, I just don't really post that much on it. So I'm like, I got rid of it.
Y'all all low key. I feel like volleyball players are just low key. Like, hey, we're just gonna go play. We're gonna live abroad and do our thing.
Well, and we're all pretty. I'd say we're all a pretty tight knit community. Like too, like not everybody knows everybody, but a lot of people know a lot of people, and it's everybody likes to help each other out too, though. So that's the other thing. Like, if we can't find you on some social media thing, somebody will know where you are. So it's like, there's so many ways of contact nowadays too, especially like how we're talking, through Zoom and everything. So we are pretty low key, I guess we'll say.
All about who you know, right?
Exactly.
Awesome, man. And then I guess the real question for you. All right, how do I get a Gregory Petty jersey? How can I make that happen?
Tell you what. No, I have a few actually old, which one would you want? I have a few USA jerseys. I have a few overseas jerseys. They're all at my parents' house at home. I have a whole closet full of just jerseys from stuff. So
a USA jersey sounds pretty dope to hang up. That would be dope.
Yeah, I can work something out for you for sure. I won't be able to sign it right now because it's, I'm not there, but
when we be back in the States?
I think probably end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah, I can wait.
Okay, I can do that because then I can send it personally, because if you want me to be honest, I don't know how my parents would be able to figure out sending packages because they're always struggling on that stuff.
Yeah, no worries. And if you have an address, whatever, send me an address. No, I'm going to send you like some 9 Point merch, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and really being authentic about, the realness about your journey and the injury and how you kept saying, I'm going to bounce back from this. My story is not stopping because of this setback. So props to you, my man.
Thanks. And I have to say, I appreciate what you're doing too, man. It's a big step. And I love the thought behind it and everything else. And, it's for the athletes that like are still really good athletes, but maybe not like the big name people. And, I love what you're doing. So I have to say, keep it up and keep up the good work.
I appreciate you. And enjoy Spain.
Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Greg.
All right. Take care, man.
Yo, thanks for listening to this episode of the 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, leave a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can find more athlete-driven content at 9point.com. Till the next episode, you're only one opportunity away. Peace.